even if the first couple assignments didn't even really have anything to do with PE, for me, I know building relationships with my kids next year, that's how I would want to do it.
Is that building that relationship? I mean, most teachers are saying that's top priority. And
one of them was like, would you eat an onion or would you eat, a head of broccoli?
Was, when are we going to have our classes, and are they going to be able to leave their classroom?
What do we need to think about as, again, top priorities? How do you approach something like that?
I think you would have to really start with teaching the boundaries in your routine. It's how we normally teach, how we set up and where we begin class and our normal routines, but that would have to be, driven in from the very beginning.
I think it's going to come down to the expectation of how to clean equipment.
We had them create their own game, and we prepped them with what is a net or wall game, what is a target game, what is a game that involves catching and throwing. But
I think too, trying to tell them the why. I think this time right now we're just trying to fill in.
Just get them interacting in some sort of way. I love that idea.
Welcome, physical educators. This is Thinking PE.
Because Phi-Ed is more than just fun and games.
I'm Stacy Nelson.
And I'm Jamie Seneca.
And it's our goal to dig deeper beyond the activities that make your class awesome.
So buckle up and join us on this journey. Wow, physical educators, have we got a great episode for you. We took a route of trying something new. We've been trying a lot of new things when it comes to this distance learning model. And this new idea that we had was to have a discussion about this concept of 6 feet PE next year and what PE will look like, trying to adhere to the Center for Disease Control's social distancing guidelines. And what will that physical education look like maintaining 6 foot social distancing? So this discussion turned out to be a discussion with members of the physical education community around the world. So Stacey,
we had people from 3 different countries. At least 5 states were represented. And in this discussion that we're gonna start with, we're gonna share some initial thoughts from some teachers about what do we need to think about? How should we organize our classes? Not only physically, but emotionally, and set the class up. And then as you listen, you're gonna hear this conversation will morph into the possible scenarios that we might be walking into this fall. So here, take a listen. If we go back in the fall to social distancing in the gymnasium, or obviously most of us can go outside with our kids depending on the weather, what might that look like with different restrictions? Any thoughts on that? Of what do we need to think about as, again, top priorities? How do you approach something like that?
I think you would have to really start with teaching the boundaries in your routine. It's how we normally teach, how we set up and where we begin class and our normal routines, but that would have to be, driven in from the very beginning. And I know it would be hard to explain to a kindergartner or a first grader the why, but at least getting that boundary in and not being negative if they break that boundaries, but just reinforcing those quality behaviors that we want them to have.
That's super insightful, Joe. Just to think about, we're establishing those routines again, just like we always do. And to put that right in as part of the lessons, I think we can teach that to younger kids. In some ways, it might be easier to help those little ones. They kind of do what you tell them to do when you're establishing. Whereas the 5th grade, if they want to talk with a friend, they're going to talk with a friend. Anybody else? I think that's huge insight, Joe.
I've already got the spaces putting down on my floor that are 6 feet apart. I normally did that, and it was about 5 feet.
Okay.
So I just modified it and took it to 6. And I think in some aspects it may be easier because most of our kids, parents have been keeping them away from other people anyways, if they go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so that may be that much easier to just reinforce that concept.
That's true. And can I help me for a second? What's your first name there?
Justin,
thanks. I think that's huge. Are you using tape or what are you putting on the floor?
I actually use marker and mark the floor. And when I had a hardwood floor, I used nail polish.
Oh,
And then
okay.
clear nail polish on top of it.
Oh, okay. Makes
But
it
right
last
now-
a little bit longer.
I've got a tile floor now, so I just, before they put the wax down, I put it down in permanent marker and then wax it.
Okay. And is that for like squads and stuff?
Yeah, because I've already been using the squads anyways, and so we'll just expand that.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Stacey, we usually start our school year off with fitness and fitness testing.
Okay.
So I guess for us, obviously in the routines and the procedures and the protocols of how the year starts, but I think, we could probably just continue the way we usually start, and then maybe just focus on individual skills. Like we're pretty lucky that we usually have, we team teach a lot. So there's either 2 or 3 of us on most of the time.
Okay.
So we are able to split, if there's 3 of us on, we could split up into 3 different areas. Luckily the weather's pretty good here. So most of the time we could probably be outside. But yeah, and then, it's jump rope skills, I guess, those individual sort of skills, but that's pretty much what we'll probably pretty much stick to what we usually do, but obviously with those other restrictions, come up with a different game plan there.
Yeah. Do you think they will allow self-cleaning of, like, say your jump ropes, and Kim's at the middle school level, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Is that what you said, Kim? I think. And so do you think they would allow kids to clean their own? Because that could make a massive difference for us. If you're at elementary and you have to clean 30 pieces of equipment in between classes, that can get tough. But if my wife teaches the younger kids, the preschool, and they talk about foam in, foam out, that type of a deal. If kids could be allowed to do that, I think that would make a difference with what we could provide. Would you think?
I think the older they are, the easier that will be. But I'm hoping that in our scenario, we're not going to see the numbers that we've normally saw. Because if they do let us back, they're looking at half class sizes.
Yeah.
And so like our district is hinted at going 2 days a week with one group, taking a day off so that they can clean the building. And then the other group comes in and does 2 days.
Oh.
I love you. I know.
Is that the Star Wars?
Yeah, my wife was calling me.
That's fantastic. I love people's creativity. Justin, no, I haven't heard that approach. Have any of you heard of other things that are being, obviously it's all rumor at this point, but have any of you ever heard of different ideas that people have that it might look like, not just in our PE, but as far as the school in general?
I've heard from our area, just from a principal that she was talking, that it would be K through 2, possibly like a K through 2 for a certain amount of days, and the whole staff would teach the K through 2, while the 3 through 5 does the distance learning. And then on, let's say, B days, 3 through 5 would be on campus. Then all teachers would teach 3 through 5 to create smaller class sizes. However, that's all hypothetical until we know.
Right, absolutely. Yeah,
That's kind of what they're looking at here, only they're going to take each class and just cut it in half.
Yep. Have an A group and a B group.
And then they're trying to look at our district, because we're kind of small, but we're not, like, we have 5 elementaries, getting families all on the same schedule. So if your elementary kid goes on Monday, Tuesday, your middle school kid also goes on Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that they're off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday together.
That's super important. Yeah. Okay.
I know of one other district far away that their state, I guess, is looking at going 4 days a week to cut just costs. They're just not going to have their buildings open 1 day a week.
Okay. So are teachers getting cut one?
I think they're going to do the 4 days a week where they expand the day a little bit.
Okay.
And then just get rid of a day where they're not heating or cooling or trying to feed or
Yeah.
cleaning or anything.
Yeah. Interesting. Tara, do you have any idea what they're doing in your schools?
Not really yet. I'm at a private school, so we will be slightly different, but we're just waiting for provincial decisions to be made, both in education and in our healthcare system. So we talk about this every week with my department. There's 8 of us in our department for phys ed, and we are hesitant to start because we really don't know what to expect. And our relaunch, like our provincial relaunch, has been different. I'm in Calgary, which has been slowed because we have more cases of it than other parts of the province. So yeah, it's hard to say, but we always start with cross-country running. We're on a country campus and have like 8 kilometers worth of trails to start. So we're probably still gonna do that part. With regards to bad weather days and indoors, we haven't figured that out yet.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it seems like people are being super creative. I know there's one train of thought where people say, well, you know, I'm not putting any effort into this because we have no idea if we'll even need this and that. I'm more one that kind of like to be part of the process and be thinking ahead, even though, yeah, pretty inefficient as far as my time. I'll probably have wasted a lot of time at the end, but at least my brain will have been going and I won't be thrown into a situation like what happened when we went to distance learning, where it's like, oh my gosh, I got to learn this in 2 days. So I kind of like being out front of it a little bit. I heard of one group that was talking about, I think they already started this. They offered students and parents the choice of if they wanted to do distance or come to school. And that reduced their total numbers in the school down to about 50 or 60%. So they didn't have to, you know, worry about that piece. And now they can just work with that. And I don't know how they're doing that with the teachers and if they have to teach both or how that's working, but that's another idea that's out there where some parents, I know there's going to be some, if I had a 95-year-old grandma living in my house with us, I would not want my kids going back in any form in the fall here. So I'm sure there's going to be that kind of deal too, where parents just won't send their kids back. It'd be kind of an interesting piece.
So, wow, I guess what I take from that is the only thing that's certain is uncertainty. And there's so much uncertainty out there. And it's very easy to build up anxiety thinking about it. But it's just, to me, it's interesting and it's fascinating just to hear all the different scenarios. But most importantly is you kind of get some different perspectives on what other people are going to do on this 6-foot PE and how we're going to spread things out and what are some of the possible scenarios. For me, it's just rather than dwell on the negative side of it. And I guess I look at it on our first couple of weeks of distance learning, and we were all scrambling and trying new things, and just by going through that process, look at how far we've come and just the skills and best practices we've developed in regards to integrating technology.
Yeah, and what I really was impressed with is not just our group, but all the different solutions. Mm-hmm. People are coming. I mean, these are district-wide solutions and sharing spaces and teaching, you know, one group for 2 days and having the middle day off, or giving people time or parents options to send their kids. All these, I mean, educators are creative. We're given a tough scenario and we're going to figure it out, and it'll look different in different districts. But I guess that's kind of cool to me that there was so many different ideas that were being tossed out there. Yeah, I guess I get impressed by that kind of thing, and, not run down by, oh, well, if there's so many options, we have no idea, so we shouldn't. To me, that's exciting, going, hey, there's a bunch of options. Our hands are not tied here too tight. We got a lot of options. You know,
and I would kind of link it actually to something like classroom management. And I say that because classroom management is such a broad concept, and everybody has their own way, their own teaching style, their own set of rules, their own set of PBIS, you know, just different things they use to manage their classrooms. And they've developed this, what's always referred to as a toolbox. And it's kind of similar here, is there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong scenario. everybody's got a different perspective. And what you're doing by listening is you're starting to gather all those different tools to put in your toolbox, and you'll make the adjustments based on your teaching style, your equipment, your class, your setup, and your strengths and your interest, and you'll develop that best solution that's going to work for you.
I like that analogy. And by starting early, some of us like that, we can build our, fill our toolbox with a few more tools because we started thinking about this early summer instead of in August. And I guess we give grace to those people that don't have that personality. They would just as soon wait till they have all the facts and then make their decision and go. And that'll work for them too. That's the beauty of this is people like us, we can dive into this and talk about it all summer long if we want to, and other people can do it differently, and it can all work out in the end because we have these tools. And I like that analogy that you used of building a toolbox just like you do for your classroom management. That's fabulous. You got anything else you want to say, or should we talk about the next little segment?
No, I'm pretty excited for what's coming up next year.
Yeah. Well, this next segment, I lead with a question is to asking the group how they might structure their classroom. So that'll be the leading question for this next segment. And then it's kind of an interesting twist towards the end where we talk about the possibility that we might not even have gyms available to us. That is a real live possibility. So that's where this next segment is headed. Any ideas of how to structure your classroom beyond just attendance?
I'm fairly lucky that I have a nice size projector in my gym.
Okay.
So we'll end up doing probably quite a few activities where they're basically following along, matching.
Okay.
And we'll just take that grid pattern that I already have and they need to stay within that area.
Okay.
Because there's lots of different ways you can have them do different types of activities.
Yeah.
That was one of mine.
Yeah.
There's lots you could do with dance as well, by keeping them spaced out, like just not partner dances, but just movement in general. Dance play has lots of stuff, and we've already been using it in programs. So that would be something that you could implement as well.
Yeah, that kind of combines what Justin was saying too.
Yeah.
Looks like Lauren just put in the chat, would focusing more on individual sports. Oops, I just lost my chat. Sorry. Any others? I'll get back to Lauren's when I pull my chat back up. You think we can get creative with some ways to do most of our curriculum? Just figure out how to do it differently?
I think it's going to come down to the expectation of how to clean equipment.
Okay.
Even in like tennis and badminton, each kid is still going to touch that ball or bird. Is that allowed? Right. Yep. And so those are obviously are great ideas. And we would love to be able to still do them. But if, like, for example, my Alberta Health Services, if they say, no, you can't share equipment at all, then they can't play those games.
Yeah, not with each other. We could still do some
individual skill against a wall.
Breakdown games of that sort. Yeah, I suppose. Like right now, our governor has opened it up to where, like I was playing pickleball earlier, yesterday, where we wash before, and then we wash on the way out. He's allowed that. Now, is that perfect? No. But in general, you're kind of staying about 6 feet apart in pickleball. And if you foam in, foam out, so to speak, they're allowing that. So hopefully we'll at least have something like that so there can be a little interaction. And if not, I guess we're restricted.
Well, it's going to be interesting with the other piece that the CDC put out, that the spraying of equipment or spraying of things is not actually highly effective at taking care of the problem. So you're almost looking at a submersion or taking a cloth or whatever and wiping everything. because you can't just spray it or whatever.
Oh, okay. So if you had sprayed it on and then wiped it with a cloth, is that?
That might help, but they were like talking about in Europe and everywhere where they were like spraying the streets and spraying everything down. They were saying that it really is almost non-effective. And so just spraying something, the contact isn't in a wide enough area for long enough of a time period.
Okay. All
Would
right.
using like Clorox wipes out of those tubs work, or like at the gym when you go, you know, sit down on a bench press or whatever?
Maybe.
Wipes like that work?
Then we run in, can we get our hands on enough of them to
Right.
do it all the time?
Well, that, and some schools don't even allow you to use them.
Right.
Yeah, because they say keep out of the reach of children. And here we'd be handing them to them.
That might be a place where you have a spot near your gym where you can dunk something in it that's got cleaning material.
Okay.
So you have your like, wiffle balls. You can dunk them, set them aside to dry.
Yeah.
That's what I was sort of thinking is if you had like tubs or bins, if you're using wiffle balls or even, you know, and we use pickleball rackets, but they're the plastic ones that we can just dunk in, set out, and just let them sit there. Granted, though, you'd have to build that into your schedule that, like, we run a lot of back-to-back classes with no time in between. So then would there be enough time to sanitize and dry would be the question. Yeah.
And then you might have to get creative with your scheduling. Go every other class, or, you know, teach a different unit, and then the next time you see them, teach the opposite. But that's what I love, is brainstorming these ideas of how can we? It's not, I guess we can't do racket sports. It's, well, maybe if they're going to allow this. I love this conversation. Go in this direction. Kim just wrote, what about wearing gloves or students bringing their own equipment, which is really interesting idea.
We'd probably have to make sure there's no latex gloves or anything like that in case there's allergies or kid allergies or whatever.
Well, we're also running into that same problem of, can we get enough?
Right. Yeah.
And I saw too, through I think some of the elementary Facebook posts for PE, that some schools were creating their own mini PE bags with the basics, like a bean bag, a tennis ball, something, which I think is a great idea. The storage of it, I have no idea how that would happen. And then just getting the sheer quantity of it.
Yeah.
In our district, that would be, I don't think that would happen, but it's a great idea if you have a smaller district.
Yeah. Maybe a jump rope or a couple of things. We wouldn't be able to do a ton, but maybe for those few units.
Well, you have a few kids that don't have anything, and those are the kids you give it to, and you hope some kids have some things.
Oh, that's an idea too.
Another one that we threw out today in my staff meeting was, when are we going to have our classes, and are they going to be able to leave their classroom?
Yeah.
Because like right now, the rule is, even for our athletics, if a coach wants to go coach the kids this summer, they get 5 kids. And they can't see any other kids, period. And so then the piece would be, do we Zoom in from our gym into their room?
Yeah.
Or do we not teach them when they're in school and we Zoom them when they're out of school?
Okay.
If they're doing that alternating schedule.
Yeah. Wow. Those are some really interesting thoughts. Well, that does lead me to my second question of, what if they do allow us in the classroom, but they don't allow us in the gymnasium? That's kind of what I had heard of. Because in their classroom, they're in their seats, they're 6 feet apart, but in the gym, they say there's risk of, that movement, that we might be asked to go into their classroom. Or they might take our gyms and divide those up. So those are 4 classrooms in our gyms. Or, you probably don't lose your gym to anything, but here once in a while we lose our gyms to anything that comes along. So what ideas do you have as far as approaching that aspect? What if we have to go into the classrooms?
Well, let me throw another wrinkle into that one. Our district is not wanting to do this at all. But I guess there's some people talking about taking their older kids and they go on full online and don't come to school at all so
Okay.
that they can use the high school spaces,
Okay.
spread their kids out farther. But then you still have the problem of where do you put them and who's going to teach them?
Yeah, you still have to have twice as many teachers.
Right. But I guess some people have talked about that one.
Yeah. Okay. It's crazy how many angles come about on this, isn't it? Oh. Go ahead.
I know, like here in California, so we're outside unless it's raining or we have a severe weather, smoke or heat or something like that. So for us, we're outside all day. I mean, we have a classroom where we could meet in. I could see that being shut down to students and we just meet outside. Granted, if it was raining or there's smoke or the air quality is bad, I could see us going in the classroom for a PE. A lot of us have had to do that anyways, if there was the smaller classes. And then we would have our indoor rainy, we'd have to create a rainy day PE setup. There'd be no interaction.
Okay.
I mean, which is better than it's one new teacher instead of trying to fit 15 kids into a PE classroom, which I could see that being a nightmare.
I see that environment being a perfect rock, paper, scissors activity.
Yeah.
And there again, we have the videos. Most classrooms do have the screens. Those are okay, but I've been doing some research and surveying students, and word on the street is they're kind of getting tired of videos and activities in front of screens. They're doing them. It's still because they're super creative. I'm sure you've seen them, the superhero workout or the Star Wars workout, and it's super creative. But at the end, it's still just jumping jacks, or it's still a hard workout. And the students are starting to, I don't know, at least in my surveys, they're starting to spew back that that's not, doing the same thing over and over has gotten old, is I guess how they're saying it. So that's why I'm hoping to get some new ideas here of, does anybody else do rainy day activities now where you have to go into classrooms?
Yeah, we do, but a lot of it's close quarter. I mean, trying to keep that 6 feet or social distancing would be, it'd be a lot of videos. Or I do cup stacking, but then you run into the issue of you can't have the cup stacking all over. And it may be on a rainy day, PE is going to have to be, the online version of it.
So what I find really interesting with the group, and I think it's a testament to Phi Ed teachers, and it's that it's what we try to teach to our students all the time. It's that growth mindset. We're always talking about students to be problem solvers and have that growth mindset, and really now something like this, 6 feet of physical education. Now it's our turn. Now it's our turn to have that growth mindset and be the problem solvers. Yeah,
I love that. And you heard it in this group. I was so impressed with this group. They were going through these scenarios, and as it started, it's like the restriction, and then you heard it start to come out. This idea, well, if that's the restriction, then we could do this. Well, if that's the restriction, then we could do this. And I've heard, and it kind of started growing, and they started almost snowballing of these positive energy of, well, we won't be stopped there. Then we could do this or that type of a thing. And it reminded me of an activity I did in college in preparation for Phi Ed, where we were given, in a small group of 3 or 4 of us, we were given like a hula hoop, a basketball, and a jump rope. And we had 5 minutes and go. We had to come up with a game with rules, and we had 5 minutes, and then we were going to teach the class our game. And it's like, kind of like what we're given here. Here's your restrictions. You've got your equipment and these restrictions, go. You got 5 minutes, come up with an idea. But that's what's happening here. And it seems like it's really drawing out the creativity of at least these teachers that we just heard from. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, it's how many times in history have we been told something can't be done?
Yeah.
And it was a couple podcasts ago, we referenced Edison and his 2,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
Right.
He came up with one way that did. And in this situation, it's really a lot of the same. We come up with a problem, and we can come up with 50 reasons it's not going to work. But we can also come up with a couple ways that it will. You know, can we do racket sports in the classroom? I don't know the answer to that, but it's fun to kind of just start throwing some ideas around. And we chatted before, you know, all of a sudden the paper plates and the cotton balls come out.
Yeah.
And we got some weird rules on a desk, and one kid has to stand on one foot, and you just come up with some creative ideas. And no, it's not as good as being out on the tennis court,
right?
But you can still have the same enthusiasm.
Yeah.
You can still have you can approach it the same way with the same enthusiasm. And I really think our students deserve that. They deserve our best. They deserve our enthusiasm.
Yeah. And who knows, you might stumble across something that's actually better than what you did for different reasons because of the smaller setting or more intimate setting, or you just never know what that can lead into. No, I love what you just said about the students really deserve our best effort here. And it does feel like at least the people that we're running into, people that are discussing here, the other people we meet on Facebook and Twitter, they're giving that full effort. And their students are going to benefit from it. That's absolutely for sure. So
and I keep drawing back on our first couple, you know, when we first found out about distance learning, and it was only supposed to be for 2 weeks, and you know, here we are 10 weeks later. And even if we never do that distance learning again, I keep going back to that. Look at all the skills that we've gained. And now how we've strived to, in the past, we strive to extend our classes outside the gym walls. And look at all the ways, all the resources, and all the best practices, and all the strategies we've developed to do that. And when it comes to six feet PE, it's gonna be baby steps to start, and there's gonna be a lot of mistakes, and we're gonna have a lot of those "I'll never do that again" moments.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you're gonna turn back and laugh at them. but it's look at how much you've grown.
Right. Well, that's a perfect segue into this next segment, because there's a real chance that some people could be heading back to the fall doing distance learning again. And at least for part of their classes, or whether it's everybody or part, whatever. And you just said, we've learned a lot. You're going to have to put that into practice, because we're going to have one major hang up with a lot of us is you're not going to know a lot of those students, or at least some of them, because you're starting the year instead of ending the year. Mm-hmm. And so that's what this next segment is talking about, is what if we return to school in the fall and we're set up with distance learning again as the mode of educating. How about if we go back and we're at full distance learning, but now you haven't established any procedures ahead of time with these kids? Some of you might not even know the kids. How do you think the approach will be different than what you did this spring with establishing new classes online? Any thoughts on that?
I think it depends if what your district is going to require. Our district, we started off saying nothing's required. Then they sort of came in and said it's required, but it's not required. So, you know, PE sort of kids were like, okay, well, I'm not going to do as much. If they get that it's required and it's clearly, I think, communicated, I think there'll be more buy-in. We use Google Classroom, so there'd be more buy-in from it that they would do it.
Yeah.
I live in a very rural area. We still don't have, a lot of our kids don't have internet. So we're still struggling with that and sending paper stuff home, because that's all they have access to right now.
So will anything change as far as how you approach handing out paper stuff because you don't know these kids now, or?
I don't know.
How about the rest of you, procedure-wise? How do you set that up? Different. You just send it out and hope, or do you do some different types of activities to draw them in, or maybe too vague of a question?
I know some places are doing where the kids have to do a short video to send back on what they're working on.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be live, but it's either via an email or whatever, where you have that short video that you could see.
Yeah.
Even with the video, I think just because I'm a huge relationship person, even if the first couple assignments didn't even really have anything to do with PE, for me, I know building relationships with my kids next year, that's how I would want to do it. Figure out what their favorite activities are, what they like to do for fun, just that kind of stuff. Get to kind of know them on a little bit more personal level, and then kind of dig into the PE stuff maybe 2 weeks after the school year starts.
Okay.
But still kind of maybe even requiring some type of activity of their choice, and then kind of move into more specific things, I guess.
Okay.
I think too, sorry, my email keeps going off. I think too, trying to tell them the why. You know, I think this time right now, we're just trying to fill in. Here's your activities, you know, stay busy, awesome, you're being movement, but not a lot of, you know, like, especially it depends if it's required, but then teaching them the why. Like I tell my kids always, a healthy body is a happy body, and to go into details. And I think if we take some time, even if you don't know the kids, of, hey, this is why we're doing it, you know, I think that would help, you know, going in, building into that relationship part too.
Well, I think we're going to have to take a lot of time with our older kids and explain why, to some of them, we can't do what we've always done.
Yeah.
Because that, you know, well, but I just want to, you know, kind of like when you first came into a program that may have been different, where the kids are like,
Yeah.
well, we just want to play basketball.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to just play basketball. And you have to explain to them why it's not appropriate for us to just play basketball.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same type of formula.
I think you're right. Yeah, we've been doing several interviews and research and surveys and trying to find out what's effective. We've been trying to interview students and teachers of all levels. And what we've been finding is that the top thing comes back to what Lauren was talking about, is that building that relationship. I mean, most teachers are saying that's top priority. And so the question then becomes, what activities can we do to, it was one thing to maintain a relationship that you started in this spring, but this fall you might be given, depending on your situation, classes of people you've never met. What types of activities, Lauren, kind of you were talking about some videos and stuff, but any ideas of relational building, not only for ourselves, but the bigger aha for me was, the students still need some type of interaction where they're building relationships with each other, even if it's distance learning, even if they have to do it 6 feet apart. Do we have any ideas of ways to do that completely distance?
I know. So my wife's a 5th grade teacher. They would have their weekly class meeting. So if we were doing distance learning, you know, to have a class meeting, but they would do this game. It's Bamboozled. And it was like a get to know you game. They would choose like random things. Would you choose this or this? I think one of them was like, would you eat an onion or would you eat, you know, a head of broccoli? And the kids would have to say why. But it was just one of those like build connections with the teacher, and they would just choose random things. I could see that being done distance learning, but I could see that even in just the general 6 feet, where you could, even if you had a projector, you could project it, or just talk about it, or have them create even questions and the what ifs or would you rather, and then randomly choose them just to build that relationship.
Yeah, I love that kind of thing where you're just acknowledging that these kids need interaction, even if we have to keep them 6 feet apart. You can have you seen the would you rather videos that are out now? That, you know, where it goes up and the kids have to choose a different exercise based on what they do. Well, as they're looking around, you know, certain kids are doing jumping jacks, certain kids were doing burpees or something, but then afterwards have them tell the person next to them 6 feet away why they chose that, or just get them interacting in some sort of way. I love that idea.
We've done those in the last couple of years, and my favorite ones are the ones that are uneven on the amount of time you have to do them. Because then you have something to really talk about, and they're uneven for a reason. Now, this one's way easier, so you have to do it way longer.
So you have to do jumping jacks for 30 seconds, but push-ups for 10 or something like that.
Right. And so then we've had those conversations of why, you know, they're like, well, I picked it because it was easier. Well, it was easier, so you had to do it longer. And why is it easier or why is it harder?
How young did you do that down to? What grade?
3rd.
Okay. Boy, that I could just picture some great discussions around exercise on what exercises are harder, why they're harder, what muscles you're working. Boy, you could go 1,000 different directions with discussions on that. That's exciting. I love these ideas. Fantastic. I'm going to check the chat. Those of you who are got your video and audio muted, I'm going to check the chat. If you've got something to put in there, please jump in.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I can get my heart rate monitors clean so the kids can reuse them, because that's been a great motivational thing for our kids.
Yeah.
Because we can also tie back what we're talking to seeing their heart rate.
Right. Yeah. For distance learning, did you guys have, how do I say this? In the past few weeks, I saw a lot of people on Twitter and people kind of almost just forced into, the only thing they could do was a lot of fitness stuff, just because the ease of it, the lack of people having internet access, those are just seem to be the easiest types of workouts to give kids and keep them busy. Is that what you guys felt too? Did you kind of get limited to that, or were you able to introduce a lot more curriculum than just activity? If that makes sense. Anybody?
We did a little bit extra, but it was all through videos of different groups. Like, what is it? Len has all of her YouTube videos that go into great detail on certain things like force and speed and whatever. And so we were able to put those out. And then we have a program called WellNet. And then WellNet opened up a bunch of free modules, and they have a big library of videos. And so I could tell the kids, you need to go watch this video, answer these questions, or go do that activity and practice it.
Okay.
And then we used, I can't remember, it was a health web page through the CDC type of deal that has little short cartoons that talk about the body system and whatever. And so we put those out because I would use those some in class.
Okay. Did you find students reacted well to that content, or was
it was a real mix of, because we're in that same boat as some of the other ones, nothing's required.
Yep.
So unless the parents really wanted the kids to be doing something and be involved, you know, especially the younger you got, the less involvement you got.
Okay. Because I was real surprised again when I was doing this research. I found that the highest rated assignments for the kids were the ones where they involved a lot of content. I mean, they still liked the superhero workout. They loved Star Wars, but ranked just as high as that is when I had them check their heart rate before an activity and then after, and then they recorded it and they could see the difference. They could see if they were, what range they were in. That was one of their top ranked overall activities. And I just started thinking about that. What is it about that makes that so engaging? And I suppose it's another teacher told me it's probably the WIFM. It's the, what's in it for me? It's personal to them. You know, it doesn't feel like just busy work. It feels like, no, I'm learning something about my body and I'm experimenting and it's all about me, which sounds like a negative term. It's not at all, but that's kind of the idea that I was playing with now as I'm thinking about my next lessons for fall is how can I make, if I have to do distance stuff, if I have to do things where they're apart, how can I make it more about either them accomplishing a jump rope goal or having them take their own heart rates and those kinds of things. I don't know, any thoughts on the different types of assignments you've had good luck with?
Stacy, what we've done with our grade, I'll just put in the chat there, but
I see that. Thanks for jumping in, Kim.
Our grade, what we done with our grade sixes is we had them, okay, they've been continuing with their fitness, but we had them create their own game. And we prepped them with what is a net or war game, what is a target game, what is a game that involves catching and throwing, but also the skills that are involved there, whether it's like the catching, throwing, and then you got agility, and all those kind of things. So we prepped them with that discussion and then had them create their own game. So that's what they've been busy with, and that's they're submitting videos tomorrow doing that. Sevens and eights had to create their own 4-level skill challenge, and really they've really enjoyed that. I mean, there's so many of those games out there with that ping pong ball, you know, trying to get it in. They've really been engaged in that.
So Kim, can I clarify something?
Mm-hmm.
This is when they're at home, right?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing the past couple of weeks. Yeah, so they continue with their fitness. So they're recording their fitness on Strava so that we can keep track of what they're doing. And then it's also a nice way to comment on what physical activity they're doing. Because obviously our main goal is for them to be active. We see PE, you know, a lot of them, they only get that 3-hour time in the morning right now. But a big part of it is to make sure that they're trying to be active 2 to 3 times a week. So we post workouts, whether it's one of us that have created as PE teachers, or like you say, you got the that activities, you've got the superhero workouts, and then we also give them so we got a fitness workout. They can do yoga, or there's dance, so there's the just dance or Zumba, so they get some choice in what they do for their physical activity, and then also the creation of the game or their 4-level skill challenge.
So they come up with their own, if they have ping pong paddles, they use ping pong paddles, and they have a ball, and they have a basket, and then they determine what would be the easy level, level 2, level 3.
That's correct. I did a video with 4 different levels as an example for them, but we left it open. We said to the other PE teacher, we said, you know, the only thing that limits it's their imagination. So whatever whether it's basketball, ping pong ball, you know, they could just whatever's their interest, whatever they're interested in. So it was really open-ended, but it's been really successful. And the kids are really into it.
Hey Kim, how did the students using the Strava app? How did that go?
We usually do it because during at the end of the year we usually do our 5K training unit. So the kids we set them up with Strava. Luckily we did that before our March break. So I think probably the last 3 weeks has been better than the first bit. Just with our weekly Zoom meetings, you know, we continue to emphasize that. But I think they really sort of started to understand how important it is to get out and be active. And we keep saying to them, use PE, you know, your PE time as your brain break. So a lot of them have been doing that. And a lot of them have come up with their own programs. And we asked them to post in their description on Strava, you know, what are you actually doing?
Got it.
So it's been pretty good, yeah.
Cool.
Hi, I work with Kim.
Oh.
I'm John. Yeah.
All right, John.
Yeah, I think probably when we initially went to remote learning, we really thought it'd only be for a short period of time. And I think like most of us, fitness bought us time. It's a little bit like lockdowns have given countries time to come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Then when we realized it was going to be, you know, for the rest of the school year, that's when we decided that we'd try and come up with these different sort of units and try and keep the kids active. But it's also been a good way for the kids to, as Kim said, to, instead of making it a task, making them realize that doing something active as often as possible becomes a really good, positive lifetime choice, both physically and mentally. So highlighting that with them tends to get them on board more than you got to do this, you got to do that. And for us, we've had Strava over the last couple of years, so quite a lot of the students had it. before we set up. And then, as Kim said, the week before we went on lockdown, we actually got it set up for most of the students, and then online through making our own videos, and that I think we've got probably 99% of the students with a Strava account. And although it's probably not necessarily meant totally for the way we've been using it, it has been a good way for us, as Kim said, to communicate with students and just give them a little bit of feedback, and for them not feeling the pressure that they've got to send a video of themselves in doing something. And there's an element of trust in that as well. So,
John, I just stepped away for that split second. Can you tell me what Strava is exactly? And what it provides?
It's basically a social runners, cyclists, social media program where people actually record their training. But so you can download the app onto your phone, and then you can take it for a walk or a run or a ride with you, and it actually will track using GPS what you've done, or you can just record what you've done. But if you decide that you want to go somewhere, you can actually look up who's been there, who's done different if they've been on different trails, or and then you communicate with each other. So running groups may communicate with each other.
Okay. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, I've appreciated this group. It makes me feel good that as a group, we're looking for a way to get our curriculum back, even if we have to be adapted, rather than just throwing in the towel, say, we're not going to be able to do anything but put kids in front of a video. And I mean, again, those are okay, but just having kids follow stuff on a screen, we're going to start having behavior problems in no time, in my opinion. Because I just don't think that'll last if that's all it is day after day. That's not how, in my opinion, PE class becomes the favorite part of a kid's day. It's the creative stuff that we do. And so this was super exciting for me to have this group and talk to us here. And again, one more chance. Anybody else want to throw something in, Justin?
I have one crazy idea that we use here. I actually take floor tape and I put the heart down in the middle of the gym with the patterns through it. And then the kids have to go through the heart and to the lungs and back to the heart.
Yeah.
And then out of the heart to somewhere in the body and come back. We use motor skills when they go to the different parts of the body or the lungs.
And no issue with doing that 6 feet apart. Just send them, send them at a different. Yeah, I love that idea.
But I just take the floor tape and actually make the pattern on the floor.
Do you make the pattern of a realistic heart, or do you do just
realistic with the flow of the blood going through? Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
Okay. Yeah. Have you posted the picture of that on Twitter before? I feel like I've seen.
I may have about a year ago or so.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like I've seen it. I don't know if it was yours. There might be other people doing that too. I remember thinking, that's a lot of work.
It's fantastic. Not that, it helps when you have a gridded floor.
Yeah.
Because you just draw it out on a grid.
Okay.
And then you just match the grid as you put it down.
Oh, that's great.
So that makes it way easier.
Cool. Well, I'm going to make sure I'm following you. It's Coach Black. Actually, I think I already am following you, if I'm not mistaken.
You may be.
In there. So I've appreciated your input. Thank you, Joe,
Thanks
and everybody else. Kim, and did we lose your partner, Kim? Did John?
No, he's still there. We have really bad Wi-Fi issues at parts around here, so it's better to turn off our cameras most of the time.
Oh, okay. Well, I just think it's so cool that these guys were joining us from South Africa. I don't know if everybody caught that at the beginning. So we've got Canada, South Africa, California, Wisconsin. It's cool to be part of a global community. I don't know. I get excited about that we've got a strong group of people that really want to learn and make things better. And I appreciate you guys. Well, Jamie, how about that? Relationships come up top again. One more time we talk about doing something different. The teachers lean them right into those relationships as being critical to no matter what we do, whether it's distance learning this year, whether it's distance learning next year. It seems like that just always ranks number one.
Yeah, that relationship train is never late. It keeps coming up, and it's like, so whether it's distance learning or whether it's 6 foot FIED, it's where do we start? What are we going to do? How are we going to start? And it just go right back to how you start in your regular classes. You start by building relationships.
Yeah, I think that's huge. A piece that I kind of wanted to jump back to is that would you rather. I thought that was a super interesting discussion. I know you've done some fabulous creative ones on that, and we can make those available on the Facebook page some more, because I mean you got thousands of hits on those to start with. But I like what Justin had to say about having the uneven piece.
Yeah.
To create this discussion, so it's not just to get kids moving. We're starving for ideas on how to get the kids to interact. And here's something they can do from 6 feet apart. They can tell each other why, or brainstorm about, well, I thought this was easier. Well, yeah, it was, but you had to do it 3 times as long. And I think I just like not just that activity, but that concept of, hey, let's involve the kids in the why. I think it was Joe that said that, right? That
yeah.
I think we need to start telling them the why. And oh man, Joe was just right on the nose with that, I think.
Yeah, that struck me, and it was it Justin that made a point that really stuck out to me, and it was the fitness bought us time. And
yeah, it was John from I think he's from South Africa. He teaches him there at the end. Yep. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to give proper kudos.
Good to go. So I apologize, but it was the fitness bought us time, and that gave us the opportunity to build our resources and find new things and develop new activities. And I keep going back to the variety piece too, because anything we do, if we beat that to death, it's going to lose interest. You're not going to have the engagement. And it's just like you take the favorite game that you have in class and play that every single day for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's going to lose its enthusiasm.
Yeah. No, I think you're right on there. Even if we think back to the last podcasts where we interviewed students and we talked about the ICCU, make it having students create. Well, if you have students create every time, that'll lose its steam. Mm-hmm. And even if you do something brand new and unique every time, that loses steam. Sometimes you do need to repeat, and that's actually really good. So I love that idea, just that variety, vary it up. And it's going to be hard because your choices are limited when you got so many restrictions, but we do need to vary our approach. Otherwise it's going to get boring for kids and they're going to be unengaged. Especially
in that unknown scenario that we're going to be in.
Yeah.
Or even if we go back to our regular classes, the fitness bought us time, and the fitness videos are awesome, and we can create some pretty cool fitness, but we are going to have to eventually incorporate some skill development. We are going to have to incorporate some of the team building aspects of FIED and really hit on all of the standards that we're supposed to be teaching.
Yep. But what we found in our studies is kids like that. They like seeing improvement. They like taking their own heart rate. It's that WIFM that we've heard about, where it's what's in it for me. And if they're seeing skill improvement, they're going to love FIED. If they're seeing themselves get faster or whatever standard we're working on, that's partly why we have the standards, so we can measure them and show student growth. It's certainly a legit part of our whole PE program. It's not just fun and games. So I think with that, unless you got something else, Jamie, I'm just going to send out a huge thank you to this group of people that just freely jumped on, put themselves out there. They knew they were being recorded, and they freely gave brainstorming ideas to all of us and whoever else listened to this from now on. I just think that's huge. It's brave in some ways, and I just want to give a huge thank you. And most of you signed off without giving me any way to contact you, which is just fine. But from a personal standpoint, I would love if you're listening to this and you were on this podcast, on this panel, please reach out to us at thinkingpe@gmail.com. Send me an email, give me your contact information. I'd love to get in contact with you and share when we're doing other stuff like this, because you guys were all gave very valuable information, and I'd love to keep you involved and have you share some more in future dates. So if you'd be willing to do that, that would be fantastic. Anything else, Jamie?
No, I learned a lot, and that's why I love doing this. It's understanding what makes great teachers great. What are they thinking about? And this is just a snapshot into some of those great minds.
It is, and it's a great picture of the community coming together, brainstorming together, solving problems together. So with that, this is Stacy Nelson, and I'm out.
Hey, keep it coming. I'm Jamie. I'm out.